Well, first of all, your immediate thoughts on the speech last night.
Well, I love this speech. And, my biggest problem is not with the Republicans anymore. My biggest problem was with these Democrats who don't like Joe Biden, who think Joe Biden is, isn't the next FDR and give them everything they wanted and push them down to a 39% approval rating. That speech was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And if that doesn't remind you why we elected him president with 81 million votes, then we're just going to lose everything this November because everybody's being, namby-pamby about, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. That was a great speech. And America is now leading again in the world. And then you have these two children in the audience giving hissy fits. Those two people could be Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene could be the leadership of the House of Representatives next year because Democrats won't vote and they're not madly in love with Joe Biden the way Republicans are with Donald Trump.
Yeah. Well, 81 million of us are not a cult. As I've said over and over, Malcolm, he has accomplished more in 1 year than any president ever. I think it is provable, whether it's economically, on what he has just done in terms of Ukraine and uniting the world. I have to say, Malcolm, you're the intelligence expert here. I've been pretty shocked. I'm no military or intelligence expert, but what the Ukrainian people, I mean, all these latest reports we're seeing of, Russians surrendering, of them, sabotaging their own tanks, of them tipping Ukraine off to an assassination attempt on Zelensky. All of this, it doesn't seem like Putin bargained for, did he?
No, and your audience has been the beneficiary of me talking about this every week while I was over there in that month, meeting these people, seeing these people. It was very clear to me the Russians would not have an easy time. Now it's becoming even more clear to me that the Russians, in fact, could lose this war. Yeah. And I'm the only one in news media saying it now. Everybody is going by Pentagon assessments. Well, I used to contribute to those Pentagon assessments, and they're always the most dangerous course of action and worst case course of action. But what about the best case course of action for the Ukrainians?
Yeah.
Some people are saying we're setting ourselves up for disappointment by relying so much on the Ukrainian news media, and what we're seeing. What we're seeing are facts. The Russian army invasion is not going quickly. It's not. And they are being caught up in many places. People are surrendering. Groups of guys are running out of fuel, and they just give up the tanks.
Yeah,
we're seeing it everywhere.
You retweeted. You retweeted somebody, Malcolm, just quickly, that said why Russia will lose this war. Much of the realist discourse is about accepting Putin's victory because it's guaranteed. How do we know it is? I'll argue that analysts, 1, overrate the Russian army, 2, underrate Ukrainian one, 3, misunderstand Russian strategy and political goals. And you just said I am one of those analysts who thinks that Ukraine could ultimately win. I mean, the experts, Malcolm, were saying Kyiv would fall in a day or 2 days tops, right?
It was 24 to 72 hours. And then I was, talking to a group of friends, including one who writes for a major magazine. And they were like, well, U.S. intelligence is saying 7 days. Really? Because tomorrow's 7 days.
Yeah.
They're nowhere near the city. The 2 incursions which were allowed into the city, one of them was allowed into the city, and they massacred those people on a boulevard. As soon as I heard they were on that boulevard, I thought, why would you ever be on that boulevard? Because, the zoo's on the left and skyscrapers are on the right. They let them in to kill them. It was a kill zone. So, the Ukrainians are fighting, and it's home field advantage. They know what they're doing, and they are motivated. And, General Russell Honore used an old Army term, right? When you got the will and the skill, it equals kill. Yeah. And the Ukrainians are all about that. If you watch, they got some good propaganda videos of like the soldier going, hey, little brother, why are you here? We're just a bunch of pissed off Ukrainians. You're coming in with 150,000. There's 5 million of us in Kyiv alone, right? 42 million people there, and they're all angry.
Malcolm, talk to us about this convoy. You said there's conflicting reports about the length of this convoy.
Yeah.
Military convoys don't move end to end like that, but
Yeah, let's talk about
by
that.
small units. You said units may spread out over 40 miles, but that's not all combat strength. Many are vulnerable
I'm sure what we're looking
support
at is
units. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm sure what we're looking at is we're looking at Vladimir Putin giving the commanding generals an ultimatum, right? You will move on Kyiv. You will move on Kyiv with everything you have. Well, they went down the two precise axes that I had predicted because I drove those roads. The one that goes up through Chernobyl and the other one that goes up through this area, Bucha, near the Antonov aircraft factory in Hostomel. And I predicted there would be these hella-born assaults by the special forces and the Russian paratrooper forces. I saw one of the videos of that yesterday that's finally come out. They were shooting helicopters down left and right, like 6 in one, 20-second video. They really took it to these Russians. They took that airfield back, and now all of those trucks, armored vehicles, and tanks are on really two roads, major roads. They're not major roads. They're small roads. These are two vehicle roads, and they're lined up down there. And, everybody goes in the news media, oh, it's a massive army. I see it. I think, holy cow, this is the greatest ambush since Hell's Highway and the Battle of Mutla Ridge in Kuwait City in 1991, where we slaughtered 400 vehicles that were trying to leave Kuwait City. They don't have our air power, but they have air power. They have artillery, they have rockets, and they have guys with guns and rockets who would just run through that place like the Avengers. And, these attacks are already happening. So if you wonder why over the last 48 hours you haven't heard anything about that convoy moving, it's because they're getting hit left and right. They're using drones on them, MiG-29s, all sorts of stuff. There are just so many targets to kill.
Yeah. I mean,
another thing, there was another convoy in the there was another convoy in the south that was of a greater danger to the Ukrainian army, near Kherson, and they hit that with fighter aircraft. They destroyed, they claim, 800 vehicles. There's video of at least 150 to 250 of those vehicles that were marshaled all together on fire. So this stuff is happening. What we have to do is, news media does not have good analysts. And I'm not on all the time. And so what they get is they get caught up in these cycles of, oh, there's a convoy. And I'm already 2 days ahead of them going, that convoy is being slaughtered. And then 4 days from now, we'll hear them say, well, oh, it's not making any progress.
Yeah.
And then 5 days they'll go, oh, it was attacked 5 days ago.
Right. Malcolm, I think for people,
you're gonna have to play it.
For those of us that aren't military experts, it is hard to understand how one of the largest, most powerful militaries in the world, how are they running out of food and fuel? And I mean, it does seem extraordinary that we're hearing all this, even them sabotaging their own tanks or surrendering or not knowing why they were there, thinking they were going for exercises.
It's as simple as this. The confidence of the Russian army, the estimations of them were based on the technology of their advanced tanks and advanced infantry systems. But there is one fundamental factor that many in news media and these defense analysts and even the Pentagon didn't factor in correct. They're Russians, okay? And you have to take into account, they just went from a conscript prisoner-based army to a contract army just in the last 10 years. The American army has been contract-based volunteers who want to fight for the last 50, 60 years. The Russians have not. And these guys didn't expect, most of the soldiers were not told they were going to fight in Ukraine. Yeah. Only the officers were told that. So these soldiers they don't want to fight the war. And this isn't Vietnam level, we don't want to fight the war because, we're getting, these guys are good at it. They don't want to fight from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so how do you win a war with soldiers that sabotage themselves?
Yeah.
How do you win a war with guys who won't fight?
Yeah, well, and also someone had tweeted about Russians are destroying the Kiev TV tower. They're trying to cut us off from communication. And you said, "Are you attacking this as another symbol of frustration and the slowness of their approach? They thought they'd win quickly and seize all infrastructure intact. This is a sign they're going to destroy all prominent symbols of Kiev." I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the danger to me is obviously the
My
reports of
first
how
day in Kyiv, I
angry
saw
and
that tower.
I'm sorry. Sorry,
My first day in Kyiv, I saw that tower and I said, that thing's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess, what I was saying is what gets scary for those of us lay people is, the reports of how angry and frustrated Putin is getting and, already seem pretty detached from reality. What is what do you see in terms of,
Right.
I think that's what the fear is, right? Is what is he going to do as he becomes more and more humiliated on the world stage?
Right. Well, apparently we're not very good at predicting this. Even people who are intimate and close to him are quite baffled at what he's doing and how he's doing it. So all bets are off the table about what he's going to do. I suspect that if he really gets a thwomping, and I'm going to tell you something, those big arrows that you see on television with whole sections of Ukraine taken, those are incorrect. The only thing they've taken is the highways that they're on. And so none of that terrain in between Highway A and Highway B has been occupied by Russian forces. They're occupied by Ukrainian citizens. And since they're not maneuvering off of these roads, the Ukrainian army knows how to maneuver and get around and behind you and beside you and wipe you out with the help of citizens who are calling in going, here's truck A, here's convoy B. This stuff is going to be bad for Russia, I suspect, in the end.
Yeah.
And then I suspect that Putin will call a national emergency, will mobilize 1 million conscripts, right? And then attempt to come down there and do what the Nazis did in 1940.
Yeah.